One sunny day, Pippa and Thomas move into their perfect new apartment in Montreal. The apartment is modern and beautiful, with big windows that show the whole city. Pippa works helping eye doctors, and Thomas makes music. They are so happy to start their new life together. They make a promise to wait 4 years before having children, wanting to enjoy their time as a couple first. On their first night, they laugh and drink to their future. But then something interesting happens. Through their big windows, they can see right into another apartment across the street. They see a good-looking couple kissing who don't seem to care that people can see them. Thomas thinks it's funny and makes jokes about it, but Pippa feels a bit strange about watching them. Later that night, Pippa puts on a special outfit to surprise Thomas, but when she comes to bed, he is already sleeping. She feels sad about this. The next day, she tells her friend Ari about the neighbors they saw. Ari says it's okay to watch if the neighbors don't mind, but Pippa isn't sure how she feels about it. That day brings nice surprises. Pippa's boss gives her a Japanese birdhouse as a welcome gift. Thomas draws a sweet picture of them together. Pippa puts both gifts up in their new home. But soon they look back at their neighbors, whom they now call Brent and Margot. They see Brent choking badly, while Margot dances with headphones, not seeing him. Pippa and Thomas worry and try to help, but finally Margot notices and helps Brent. That night, while Thomas sleeps, Pippa goes back to the window. She sees Margot leaving with a suitcase, while Brent stands at his window wearing only some clothes. As Pippa watches Brent, something unexpected happens. He turns and looks right into her eyes. Pippa is so surprised when Brent looks at her that she drops her glass, and it breaks. The sound brings her back to reality. The next day on her way home, she sees binoculars in a store window. She can't help herself. She buys them, excited to see more of what happens in the neighbor's apartment. That evening, Pippa and Thomas sit together with their new binoculars. They watch as Brent brings a woman to his apartment for what looks like a photo shoot. But soon the photo shoot turns into something more romantic. As they watch Brent flirting with the woman, Pippa and Thomas get caught up in the moment. Pippa feels so excited that she asks Thomas to copy what they're seeing. But Thomas finishes too quickly and goes to the bathroom, leaving Pippa feeling unsatisfied. When she looks back through the binoculars, she sees Brent still having fun with the model, and this makes her feel disappointed. That night, Pippa can't sleep. She uses the binoculars again and sees Margot, Brent's wife, coming home. Margot acts sweet with Brent, not knowing what he did earlier. The next day, Pippa has lunch with Thomas's sister Joni and their friend Ari. When Pippa talks about watching the neighbors, Joni tells a funny story from college. She and Thomas once used a laser pointer and microphone to listen to someone they liked. This idea excites Pippa, and she asks Thomas to show her how it works. At home, Thomas explains they would need a mirror on the other side to bounce sound back to their microphone. He doesn't feel good about this idea because it's against the law. But Pippa really wants to try it. When they see their neighbors getting ready for a Halloween party, Pippa thinks this is their chance. She and Thomas go to the party to set up their mirror. In the middle of the party, Brent sees Pippa and picks her up to take a picture. Thomas feels worried when Brent takes photos of Pippa. He follows them as Brent shows Pippa where to stand for the best picture. After taking photos, Brent leaves, giving Thomas and Pippa time to put up their mirror. They quickly leave the party and go back to their apartment. Thomas points a laser at the mirror, and soon they can hear everything happening in Brent and Margot's apartment through their headphones. The first thing they hear is a fight. Margot says Brent is seeing other people, but he says this isn't true. When Margot tries to make things better by being sweet, Brent gets angry and pushes her, breaking her glasses. Pippa and Thomas are shocked as they listen. The next day, something surprising happens at Pippa's work. Margot comes in for new glasses, and Pippa learns her real name is Julia. While Pippa checks Julia's eyes, they talk like old friends. Julia feels so comfortable that she invites Pippa to go to a spa with her on the weekend. Pippa happily says yes. When Pippa gets home, she excitedly tells Thomas about meeting Julia. At first, Thomas wants to hear more, but when Pippa mentions the spa day, he gets worried. He tells her to stay away from their neighbors. Pippa disagrees, saying she needs to help Julia. Thomas asks if he's not enough for her anymore. They start arguing, and Thomas leaves the apartment, leaving Pippa alone to think about the neighbors she can't stop watching. On the weekend, Pippa meets Julia at the spa. As they relax, Julia tells Pippa about her life. She talks about how she used to be a model but never finished school. Now she feels lost. She says her husband Sebastian, who they know as Brent, is everything to her. Julia tells Pippa that Sebastian is very good at his job, and she trusts him completely, but Pippa can hear in Julia's voice that their marriage has problems. Pippa tries to be kind and listen, but inside, she wants to know more about Sebastian's secret life. That night, Pippa can't sleep. When Thomas falls asleep, she sets up their listening devices. She sees Julia is still awake and decides to do something big. She uses Thomas's computer to connect to their printer. First, she tests it works. Then she sends a note telling Julia that Sebastian is seeing other women. Julia reads the note but doesn't do anything. So Pippa sends another note telling Julia to look in the bathroom trash, where Sebastian threw away something that proves he was with another woman. When Julia finds it, she is very upset. Just then, Thomas catches Pippa sending the notes. He is very angry and says she has gone too far. While they argue, they see Julia pick up a knife in her kitchen. Pippa feels scared as Julia walks towards Sebastian. Thomas wants to call the police, but Pippa is afraid they'll get in trouble for watching their neighbors. Before they decide what to do, Julia puts the knife down. Thomas is so angry he goes to bed and breaks Pippa's binoculars. The next morning, Thomas tells Pippa he feels like he's not enough for her anymore. Pippa realizes she has become too obsessed and promises to stop watching Julia and Sebastian. They hug, but then something terrible happens. They see that Julia has killed herself. Thomas blames Pippa for everything. He packs his things and leaves her. Now alone, Pippa feels very guilty. She can't sleep at night because she keeps thinking about what happened, but she still can't stop watching Sebastian. She sees him feeling sad and alone and feels drawn to him more and more. Pippa wants to help Sebastian feel better. One evening, she sees him going to a bar and follows him. She sits far away just watching him. After a while, Sebastian sees her and comes to her table. He says she looks familiar. As they talk, Sebastian tells her he's a photographer. He speaks in a way that makes Pippa feel special. He asks her deep questions, like if she's ever felt close to someone she barely knows. These questions make Pippa nervous but excited. Sebastian asks Pippa to come to his apartment for drinks and to take photos. Even though she knows they probably won't just take photos, she says yes. In the elevator, they look at each other with strong feelings. When they get to his apartment, Pippa closes the door quickly, feeling excited. Sebastian starts taking photos of Pippa, just like she's seen him do with models. He takes normal photos at first, then asks her to take off some clothes. He takes off his shirt first, and Pippa, caught up in the moment, does the same. Soon, they stop taking photos and spend the night together. At the same time, Thomas comes home with flowers, wanting to say sorry to Pippa. When he can't find her, he drinks some of his green juice, but feels something isn't right. He pours the rest in the bird feeder outside. Then he sees something moving in Sebastian's apartment. He looks through the binoculars and sees something that breaks his heart. Pippa is with Sebastian. Thomas feels so hurt that he can't even speak. The next morning, Pippa comes home and sees her door is open. She feels scared as she goes in. She finds flowers on the floor and then sees something terrible. Thomas has hanged himself. She is shocked and filled with sadness, knowing her choices led to this. She spends many days feeling very guilty about what happened. Later, Pippa sees a poster about Sebastian's photo show. She wants to understand everything better, so she meets her friend Ari. She tells Ari everything, how she watched the neighbors, her night with Sebastian, and Thomas's death. Ari tries to make her feel better, saying it's not all Pippa's fault. When Pippa asks if going to Sebastian's show might help her feel better, Ari says yes and offers to go with her. At the show, there are many people. Sebastian says hello to Pippa but doesn't seem very friendly. Then something shocking happens. Julia comes on stage, alive. Julia tells everyone that the show is about a story, Pippa's story. Pippa is horrified as she realizes all the photos are about her and Thomas. The photos show everything: when they moved in, how they watched their neighbors, and even Thomas's death. Sebastian and Julia tell everyone that they planned it all. They had been watching and recording Pippa and Thomas the whole time, making them part of their art project without them knowing. They controlled everything that happened. Pippa runs out, feeling angry and tricked. She goes to Sebastian and Julia's apartment and finds a door to an attic. Inside, she finds a secret room full of cameras and screens. There are photos everywhere showing every private moment of her life with Thomas. Feeling very angry, Pippa breaks all the cameras and photos in the secret room. The next day, she decides to leave the apartment forever. As she packs, she pours the last green juice in the bird feeder. Then she sees something that changes everything: dead birds under the window. Suddenly, she understands that Thomas didn't just kill himself. Sebastian and Julia talk to a reporter about their photo show. When asked if spying on people was wrong, Julia proudly says Pippa and Thomas signed papers allowing it. Sebastian looks worried and they leave quickly. When they get home, they find wine at their door with a note saying, "From the Tates." They start drinking it. Suddenly, their printer starts working. A message prints, "I know," then another. Thomas didn't kill himself. They get scared and see Pippa watching them from another building. They chase her to her work, where she tells them the truth. Julia poisoned Thomas and made it look like he killed himself. Julia laughs, but then starts feeling strange. Pippa tells them the wine was from her, and she put something in it to make them sleepy. As Julia falls down, Pippa looks at Sebastian and says something scary. He should remember her face, because it will be the last thing he ever sees. She uses a strong eye laser from her work to blind both of them. Later, new people move into Pippa and Thomas's old apartment. They can see into Sebastian and Julia's apartment across the street. Sebastian and Julia live there, now blind forever. Just as Pippa promised, her face was the last thing they ever saw.